My guest tonight is a senior news editor of the Kyiv Independent. Please welcome Dmytro Basmat. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me, Anthony.
Good. My pleasure. Anytime. You're always welcome here. So obviously, lots to talk about Ukraine. I kind of feel like it's taken a little bit of a backseat in the news. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I just want to clear some things up with Canadian people. So let's talk about this quickly.
Right.
Why the hell are we there?
Well, first of all, I want to make the point that Canadian soldiers are not in Ukraine on the front line. So when we say we're in Ukraine, we are not physically present there. We're not physically fighting the fight in Ukraine on the front line. And that is a big distinction. What we're doing is sending military aid, sending financial aid, sending humanitarian aid to support a democratic country. Russia invaded Ukraine back in 2014, and it reinvaded, or it launched its full-scale invasion in 2022. And since then, we've had hundreds of thousands of civilian casualties and military casualties. We've had loads of critical infrastructure damaged. We've had a really tyrannical regime come in and impose themselves on a free and sovereign neighbor. And it's just absolutely horrible what's going on. But the West has to step up and continue to support military aid for Ukraine. Because if we don't, then we really fall to an authoritarian leader in Vladimir Putin. Russia is no friend of Canada. They are a threat to our Arctic sovereignty in the north. They meddle in our elections. They cause sabotage acts across the world. And they are no friend. Vladimir Putin is a tyrannical tyrant. And Ukraine is a sovereign, independent, democratic ally. Yes, it is a new democracy, and there are flaws in that democracy. But I would any day support Ukraine over a tyrannical regime. And, I'll put this in the context of Canada. Right now, we have Donald Trump in the United States, and he's continually threatening to annex us. He's always saying that we should be the 51st state. That is a little bit, minus the military aspect to it. He's not threatening to invade us. But Ukraine has been dealing with a bully in Russia for generations. Before the Soviet Union, in the past decade, this is a long historical grievance. And Russia did the unthinkable and actually invaded Ukraine. So if we're standing up for a bully here in Canada, then Canada has the obligation to stand up for bullies across the world.
I want to talk about obligations because, and that's a very good example. And because the reason why I want to do this episode is because I keep hearing about this. What are we doing there? Why are we sending all this money? I want to talk about what our obligations are, but what we've also sent over. So the number you and I discussed was about $19.5 billion, which, I mean, depending on what side of the aisle you might be on, like you may agree or not agree with it. But what is that money doing? If we don't have physical soldiers present, what does that money do there?
So it's really going into three channels. We have humanitarian aid, we have military aid, and we have financial aid. And really what those things are doing, I mean, military is pretty common sense. We're sending weaponry, we're sending tanks, we're sending all the equipment that Ukrainians need to fight back Russian aggression. On the humanitarian aspect, we are literally fighting to preserve lives on the front line. We're talking about basic needs like food, shelter, water, things that really will help Ukrainians just get past this really tumultuous period in history. And so your tax dollars, rest assured, is going towards saving lives in Ukraine. But there's also financial aid, because if the Western world doesn't support Ukraine's economic stability, then there will be no stability. We'll have social programs that run out. We'll have money that is, frankly, there's not enough money to pay for any of the programs that they need. So that's where that money goes to.
Can we, the one thing I want to come over to here, because I think a lot of people don't know, like, why did Russia invade Ukraine? I know there's a lot of theories going on, but why did they invade?
And that's the thing. There is a lot of theories going on around that. And I don't think there's a definitive answer for you. I think this is all about power and Vladimir Putin's urge to control his sovereign neighbors. He is a former KGB agent. He grew up in Moscow during the Soviet Union, where it was the center of the world around in that region. And so I think he really wanted to reestablish that. He's gone off, misguided historical facts. He is, during the pandemic especially, he was isolated and he was reading really into this sort of distorted reality. And I think truly it snapped in him after the pandemic, and he found the opportunity. He thought that the West wasn't going to react as strongly as they did. And clearly there's more resolve than Vladimir Putin thought. And so there isn't a really definitive answer as to why Vladimir Putin started this war, because at the end of the day, it was the wrong thing to do. It hurt Russia's economy. It killed tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Russian soldiers. But nonetheless, the desire for power was there.
Awesome. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the situation in Ukraine.